We had the French election yesterday, which is really important given the state of the EU and immigration in Europe and the rise of the far right. So let's see what happened. This is from Vice News. They say, after a close race, centrist Emmanuel Macron, by the way, I am going to butcher these names to no end, because I don't know whether to go with the American Macron, Emmanuel Macron, or to go with the faux French thing that I'll do, Macron, or what's the other one that I'm not sure how to pronounce? Francois Fillon. Should I go Francois Fillon, or Jean-Luc Mélenchon? Jean-Luc Mélenchon. I'm caught between the American and the French, whatever. So let's just go through it and see however it comes out. After a close race, centrist Emmanuel Macron will face off with far-right Marine Le Pen in the runoff of France's historic election, the Associated Press reports. The election could determine France's willingness to remain part of the European Union. Pollsters estimate that Macron will take about 24% of the vote, while Le Pen will wind up with 22%. The race was too close to call up until the polls closed. A four-way race between Macron and Le Pen, as well as conservative François Fillon and the communist candidate, he's actually not, he's a socialist, but Jean-Luc Mélenchon, who surged in the polls at the 11th hour of the race. Macron, the 39-year-old former investment banker, a political novice who has never before been elected to political office, is expected to defeat Le Pen easily in the final round. Both the right-wing Fillon and the socialist Benoit Hamon have thrown their support behind Macron over Le Pen. So now what happens is there's a runoff election that's going to occur on May 7th. And let me give you some information about the candidates it's down to. So first, Le Pen. She's the head of the far-right party, the National Front. Her father founded the party in 1972. Now, her father is a character, if I'm being kind about it. He was a Holocaust denier and founded this party. Now, I think she's denounced that, but it's now her party. She doesn't talk to her father anymore. The way to describe her, to sum her up, is basically a nationalist and an economic protectionist. And her critics would say, well, she's kind of a fascist. So what does Le Pen want? Well, she wants to expel all illegal immigrants from France and a 10,000-person limit on new immigration. She wants the retirement age at 60 and a fixed 35-hour work week and bolstered public services. And she wants a referendum on whether France should stay in the euro. Now, Macron is a 39-year-old former Rothschild and CIE investment banker. Wow. Is that supposed to say Rothschild and Co.? Rothschild and CIE? Forgive me, I don't know what CIE is. Anyway. And he founded his own centrist political party. Now, this guy is for cutting the corporate tax. He wants to bolster the country's relationship with the EU. He wants industry deregulation, flexibility for companies with the 35-hour work week. So, in other words, he wants you to be able to work more if the company wants you to work more. He wants an investment plan to help move France toward renewable energy as well. So Obama came out and endorsed Macron, and, I think Donald Trump kind of quietly and tepidly, in not so many words, said, yeah, I kind of support Le Pen. And what you have here is funny to see, because it's like similar to the U.S. election in Hillary Clinton versus Donald Trump. You have Hillary Clinton as like Macron, who's, kind of like a corporate neoliberal centrist character, globalist, yes, you could say. That's a fair assessment. And you have Le Pen is kind of like Trump, except she's a little bit more sophisticated and she sounds a lot more intelligent. But there's still that kind of strain of bigotry in how fervently anti-immigrant she is. But what's weird is, man, we're seeing a lot of this lately. This weird, crossover in the standard left-right dichotomy. So when you look at how Trump campaigned, he campaigned to basically say, well, half the time on foreign policy. Let's stay out of other people's affairs. We're not going to go into Syria. He actually ended up going in, of course. We're not going to go into Syria. We're going to get out of Iraq. We want to rebuild our country here. We don't need a nation build over there. So he was like non-interventionist. He was overtly protectionist and in favor of tariffs and not in favor of trade deals and outsourcing. Was in favor of infrastructure projects here. So those are all traditionally left-wing positions. Non-interventionism is left-wing. Protectionism is left-wing. And infrastructure is left-wing. So he was a little bit of a crossover. He said, I'm going to protect Social Security and Medicare. He said that on the campaign. Whether or not he actually does it is a separate question. He's gone back on almost all of his promises, to be clear. But, like, some of his rhetoric was left-wing, Trump. Now, on those issues, Hillary, to the extent she was left-wing, it was just like she would touch on it and move on. Like, she would never talk about really seriously being against trade deals because she's well known as an outsourcer. She pushed for TPP 45 times and called it the gold standard. So she was for outsourcing. She rarely spoke about rebuilding infrastructure. She wasn't, a non-interventionist. She wanted to get involved in foreign policy all over the world and, keep the U.S. the sole superpower. So you have a crossover where the standard right-wing party is acting more left-wing on certain issues, but then on other issues, they are the quintessential right-wingers. So whether it be Le Pen or whether it be Donald Trump, I mean, in Donald Trump's case, we have to ban all Muslims from coming to the country. The Mexicans, they're criminals, they're rapists. I assume some are good people, these immigrants, deport all undocumented immigrants, do nationwide stop and frisk. So you had on many social issues just a quintessential right-winger. So it's this weird mix of formerly left-wing views and right-wing views, and what you get is what's called right-wing populism. Le Pen is very similar. Mixes kind of standard far-right views with traditional left views of, no, we're going to protect your social services, we're not going to outsource jobs, we're going to bring back tariffs. So what's happening, the problem with this is there is no real left in the discussion. Because you have, like, Hillary and Macron, who might be left on social issues. Yay, we don't hate gays, and we're not against abortion and stuff, and we don't despise immigrants. Yay, how progressive. Like, okay, so you're progressive on some issues. The right-wing candidates are being more progressive on other issues. There's no real representation of the left. That's an option. So what you have is basically a far-right, weird, neo-fascist movement represented by Le Pen and Trump versus this neoliberal, centrist, uber-capitalist disaster, globalist disaster. So, but again, as I've said a million times and other commentators have rightly pointed out, the answer to this right-wing populism, and make no mistake about it, in Trump's case, it's pseudo-right-wing populism. Le Pen, who the fuck knows? But it's left-wing populism. So the real answer was this guy who surged at the end. I think he came in third, Mélenchon, who they called a communist. He's not a communist. He's like a socialist. He was viewed as like the Bernie of their race. The answer is Bernie Sanders here at home. I don't know enough about this guy to totally endorse him over there, but somebody who's more in that flavor of a candidate there. You have to mix the left-wing economic, views and anti-corruption views and anti-outsourcing views and non-interventionist views. You have to mix those left-wing views with practical left-wing views on social issues too. And unfortunately, you're kind of, it's a rock and a hard place in all these different elections. Donald Trump versus Hillary Clinton is a trap here. There's no winning. You get Hillary Clinton, you're fucked. You get Donald Trump, you're even more fucked. Over there, you get Le Pen, you're even more fucked. You get Macron, you're fucked. So there's no good answer, at this stage in the election. And it's a sad fact of reality. What we need is a strong populist left movement all around the world. Certainly in Europe, certainly in France, certainly in the U.S., a strong populist left movement that stands up for the things that polling shows certainly the American people believe in, and I'd venture to guess the French people believe in as well. But now they've kind of got themselves in a pickle like we got ourselves in a pickle when we had Donald Trump versus Hillary Clinton in the general.